Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Q&A edition of Optimal Relationships Daily, episode 1287. I'm your host, Greg Audino, reminding you before we begin that if you have a question of your own that you'd like to hear answered on the show, as we will do today, I encourage you to email it into us at advice@oldpodcast.com. You will definitely hear back. My favorite part of the job is taking your questions, so don't be shy. And with that being said, let's take a look at what's on the mind of one of your fellow listeners this week. We're going to get right into this question now, try to help out, and optimize your life. A big issue seems to be deciding whether to hold on to something I may need later. Solutions like discarding clothing if not worn for X months are wasteful and unhelpful, especially at older ages, when replacing a discarded item is using money needed for future health needs, for example. I would like to have less stuff. I'm okay with not acquiring more, but I use items that I dig out and I have not used in years. I'm aware of the reasons I keep things: fear, childhood poverty, influence of parents, natural frugality, but would like to hear sensible solutions and usually have a valid counter-argument. Does it spark joy? Well, yes, when I find I already have something I now need. Okay, good question, asker. We haven't talked a whole lot about minimizing or decluttering, but it is very important subject matter, and in some cases can be really debilitating. So I appreciate you reaching out about this. And I do think that's where I want to start. My first question when reading this is where it all falls on that spectrum of debilitation. So you referred to it as a big issue. How big? The spectrum and the nuance of how problematic it can be to hang on to extra items is really wide. So, for example, even though minimalism doesn't come up on ORD so much, it is highly popular on Optimal Living Daily. So maybe, is this the type of situation where you've just heard about the benefits of decluttering a lot and now you maybe feel like something's wrong with you for not having done much of it yourself? Or has it reached a more serious level in which, say, you have no space in the house and you can't keep it clean and family members are getting worried about you? So I think trying to get an objective truth, as objective as you can, on the severity of the situation is really going to be of utmost importance as you take my advice and the advice of others into consideration. Because, as you can imagine, the amount of change necessary can really depend. So I might recommend that you do some reflection or probably more helpfully talk to loved ones in an effort to get some perspective on just how stifling this really is. And once you're able to come to that decision of how crucial it is to remove items from your house, then, well, here are some ideas to keep in mind as you go about cleaning house. So first of all, the notion of having too much stuff is, to me, just completely oversimplified. So do not fall into that trap. It's illogical to clump this all into one problem because each item you have takes up a different amount of space, has a different degree of quality, a different degree of replaceability, a different amount of meaning, a different amount of money required to buy a new one, etc. What else might you add to this list? Because it keeps going. And I'm not a math guy at all, but the reality is that once you do kind of sift through all of those variables that I started mentioning, that there is an equation at the core of this, It's something like, is the amount of stress that comes with each item taking up space over time worth the amount of joy you might have if you ever end up needing it, or the amount of money spent on getting a new item, right? Like keeping an old, broken bookshelf around that takes up an entire wall just in case you get back into reading again, that's much different than keeping an old pendant that you got from a deceased relative. So even though there might be a lot of stuff to get through, seeing each item for its individuality can really help you start to discern where changes need to be made without blowing the whole thing up. Now, if you sit around and do the math on each item, I give you all the credit in the world because I sure would not. Couldn't if I tried. I think I topped out at pre-calculus in school. But to get a rough idea of it, one helpful first step could be starting by looking at the items that you have multiples of and sifting through those. So for example, if you keep 20 sweatshirts around. See if you can hang on to 1, 2, or 3 that you feel best combine meaning and functionality. Again, some items are more sentimental or more practical than others. And if you're trying to declutter, recognizing the difference is paramount. In doing so, you're able to meet an important need of hanging on to items of true value and purpose and separating yourself from the rest that really don't serve you as much as they do just play into your fears or scarcity mindset. Now you're building momentum because with each item you have, you're better prepared to look at it and separate your feelings of value, security, and fear into different buckets, whereas right now it's probably harder to do that. Approaching decluttering in this way stands to help you add nuance not only to each item, but more importantly probably to each of the reasons you listed in your question for why you think the way you do. It's amazing that you're aware of those driving forces. It truly is. But, the time comes when we want to gently push against those patterns that aren't serving us. And to me, what feels like a healthy way of confronting those thoughts is being able to say, no, I don't need all of these items. I know I want to change, and until I do, my fear is getting the better of me. Some items are more special and useful than others, and I will allow myself to keep those so that I'm taken care of, but not powerless to the way I've been conditioned to think. And everyone, vitamins and supplements are not one size fits all, which is why our sponsor Care Of provides tailored guidance that evolves with you as your needs change. Stay on track with your health goals thanks to Care Of's daily packs that make taking your vitamins easy to stick to every day. Each month, they ship your personalized vitamin packs right to your doorstep in small, plant-based, compostable film packaging. Just take a short, in-depth quiz about your health goals and lifestyle and get personally tailored recommendations based on your answers. You can stick with what Care Of recommends or change up your pack at any time by retaking the quiz as your health needs change. And I found the quiz did a great job of asking about a whole range of health goals, be it muscle building, focus, energy, hair, circulation, and way more. So it was cool to learn about and be sent different vitamins that I didn't know could help me in such a wide variety of ways. And I recommend you do the same, everyone. For 50% off your first Care Of order, go to takecareof.com and enter code ORD50. For 50% off your first Care Of order, go to takecareof.com and enter code ORD50. And many thanks once again to the asker for sending this question in. I hope it helped. Felt like kind of a sloppy answer on my part, which I apologize for. But, ultimately, at the core, and it's important to realize that you can do this when trying to decide which people, places, jobs, whatever to keep in your life. It's not just items. What's at the core is recognizing that each item has its own unique value, and it's easy to lose sight of that the more we let these items pile up and naturally want to clump them together in order to simplify the thinking that goes into them. They're not all the same. So remembering that and thus making the problem solving about approaching each item at a time rather than this big task of clearing everything out or bust will help us be more purposeful and more efficient when deciding what we want to keep around in our lives, big or small. Okay, that's going to do it for this Saturday Q&A, dear friends. I'm very thankful you showed up and listened till the end, and I do hope you come back again tomorrow and do the same, where your optimal life awaits.